So welcome back students. Today we'll start from India and the world of print. Okay. Last two videos में हमने print कैसे develop हुआ. We discussed about China, then we discussed about Europe, then what was the impact of print culture on Europe. Today we'll discuss about how print culture, this technology developed in India. Okay. So अगर हम बात करें initially India में तो हमारे यहाँ it was all manuscript, which was written in Sanskrit and Arabian, we can say, and Persian language. Okay. And afterwards, you can see when India became a British colony, I hope you remember the Battle of Palasi and Battle of Buxar. This was the time when India became the colony of Britain, and afterwards what happened, some printed materials, they were, introduced in India also. तो हमारे यहाँ जो सबसे पहली मैगजीन इंट्रोड्यूस हुई दैट वाज बंगाल गैजेट एंड इट वाज एडिटेड बाय अ ब्रिटिश वी कैन से editor, that was James Augustus Hickey. Fine. And then actually this Bengal Gazette, the printing of this Bengal Gazette, it marked the beginning of printing in India, say, and that was English printing. Okay. And this James Augustus Hickey, he was very we can say genuine person, and in his magazine he used to mock the British officials also. He used to print caricature of British officials also. And because of this, the then Governor General of India, that is Warren Hastings, he was not happy with James Augustus Hickey and he had persecuted him also. Okay, do remember General Warren Hastings, he was the first Governor General of India. Okay, then you know that the first Indian newspaper, this was the beginning of English printing, by Britishers. If we talk about the first Indian newspaper, that was also known as Bengal Gazette, and this was edited by an Indian, that is Gangadhar Bhattacharya. So kindly remember, this is Bengal Gazette, this is a magazine edited by James Augustus Hickey, and this is Bengal Gazette, which is an Indian newspaper edited by Gangadhar Bhattacharya. Okay, then you can see these are some informations given in source, okay, and some extra materials, within the NCERT book. You should read the NCERT book also thoroughly. So यहाँ पर आप देखोगे, this is a page from a book which is known as Diwan, okay. Diwan, this actually book was a collection of we can say poems written by Hafiz. Fine. Then okay, we come to print, how print came to India, what led to the introduction of print culture in India. So it was introduced in India around mid of 16th century by the Portuguese. Okay, you must have heard about Vasco da Gama. He was the first one to search the sea route for India, that was via Cape of Good Hope, which is the southern point of Africa, तो जो पोर्तुगीज आए सबसे पहले, आपको पता है ये गोवा में लैंड किए, ठीक है, and they had brought some Christian missionaries with them, okay. So ये जो Christian missionaries थे ना, they were Jesus priests, they learned the local language of people, which is Konkani in Goa, and then they printed several tracts related to Christianity in this language, Konkani language, okay. So this marked the we can say introduction of print technology in India, and afterwards you can see there were some Catholic priests also who came later on, and they printed first Tamil book in 1579 at Cochin, and we had first Malayalam books also published in India, that was in 1713. So it was in South India initially, it was introduced by the Dutch and the Britishers. Okay, इसके बाद हमारा आता है बेटा, yes, we'll talk about the impact of print, religious debate, ठीक है, and how it led we can say Indian scenario. यहाँ पर हम बात करेंगे religious reforms and public debates. Okay, so we'll talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy here. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, जब भी हम बात करते हैं father of social reform in India, it is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and he used to publish a magazine known as Sambadh Comedy. It was all about social reforms, but there were some orthodox Indians who were not happy with the social reforms, and they used to publish Samachar Chandrika, समाचार चंद्रिका में पता ही है क्या करते थे, राजा राममोहन राय जो भी रिफॉर्म्स के बारे में अपनी मैगजीन में बोलते थे, दैट इज संबंध कॉमेडी, तो जो हिंदू ऑर्थोडॉक्सी थी, दे यूज्ड टू क्रिटिसाइज ऑल ऑफ दैट इन देयर पब्लिकेशन, दैट इज समाचार चंद्रिका. Okay, 1822 you can see two Persian newspapers were published, that is known as जामी जहानामा एंड शमशुल अकबर. ठीक है, जब भी हम बात इसको एमसीक्यू में बच्चों को देते हैं ना कि जामी जहानामा एंड शमशुल अकबर वर रिटन इन विच लैंग्वेज, तो बच्चे अक्सर इसमें उर्दू लिख जाते हैं. तो डू रिमेंबर इट वाज पब्लिश्ड इन पर्शियन लैंग्वेज. देन इन 1822 वी हैड गुजराती न्यूज़पेपर, दैट इज बॉम्बे समाचार. फिर हमारे पास कुछ मुस्लिम पब्लिकेशंस के भी एग्जांपल्स हैं, लाइक सम चीप लिथोग्राफिक प्रेस वाज प्रिंटेड. चीप का मतलब यहाँ पे है सस्ता, लो कॉस्ट. ओके, एंड इट वाज पब्लिश्ड इन पर्शियन एंड उर्दू लैंग्वेज. देन वी हैड देवबंद सेमिनारी which was founded in 1861 and they used to publish fatwas. ठीक है, fatwas are actually the religious orders, ठीक है, which are released by the religious heads of the Muslims. Then first printed edition of Ramcharitmanas, it was in 1810 from Calcutta. Then we have okay, cheap lithographic press in vernacular language, Cheap lithographic, again cheap means low cost. Lithographic is which is related to religion, and it was printed in vernacular language. Vernacular language means local language. Okay. Then we come to another section, that is new forms of publications, and here we have example of lyrics. Then we have example of short stories. Then we have visual images. We have caricatures and cartoons also. Fine. तो यहाँ पर अगर आप देखो बेटा, तो ये कुछ न्यू पब्लिकेशंस आ गए कि अभी तक तो मैगजीन है, न्यूज़पेपर है, रिलीजियस मटेरियल्स हैं, बट अब क्या है, कुछ और चीज़ें आ रही हैं, दैट्स फॉर एंटरटेनमेंट, लाइक लिरिक्स हैं, सॉन्ग्स हैं, शॉर्ट स्टोरीज हैं, विजुअल इमेजेस हैं, कैरिकेचर्स हैं, कार्टून्स हैं. ठीक है ना. देन वी कम टू अनदर सेक्शन. I'd like to show you a caricature. You can see here, this is a cover page of Indian Charivari. Okay. And ये एक famous journal था, जिसमें what are they trying to show, that we can see here the British figure, it is in the center, so this is telling how powerful they were. And if you see the others who are sitting behind them, they are Indians, and how submissive they are. Okay, so this is the model of, we can say, special key. The Britishers, they were the masters, and the Indians, they were the listeners. That was to show through this, they wanted to show through this caricature. Okay, now we come to another section, that is women and print. Okay, what was the role of women in development of print technology in India? So here we have, there were some women also who emerged as writers. First they were readers, then they emerged as writers, and they wrote a lot of we can say materials regarding social reforms in India, and especially which was related to position of women in India. Okay, तो यहाँ पर आप देखो रासुंदरी देवी, she was from West Bengal, who wrote her autobiography, that is Amar Jivan. इसका मतलब है my life, मेरा जीवन. Then there is example of Kailash Vashini Devi also. Although what she has written, we are not going that in detail here, but there were some famous female writers. Then in 1880s, if you come to Maharashtra, we had Tarabai Shinde and Pandita Ramabai. They themselves were child widow, and when they grew up, they taught themselves how to read and write, and then they started school for child widows and girls. Then mostly they wrote about the plight of widows. Then we had some Hindi printing also began seriously in India from 1870s. Then okay, Ram Chadda, still there were some orthodox people in India, like Ram Chadda. He used to publish about Sri Dharam Vichar. Actually, these people were quite apprehensive that maybe promotion of Western education, this is going to dilute, we can say, it's going to hamper our culture, our religion. So they didn't wanted women to westernize, actually. So they wrote about Sri Dharam Vichar, that what are the rules and regulations which females should follow. Then there was Khalsa Tract Society in Punjab, who wrote about qualities of good women. Okay, then You can see here source, this is source Eve taken from your NCRT book, and you can see here in 1926 Begum Ruqayya Sukhawat Hussain. She was an educationist and literary figure, who strongly condemned men for withholding education from women in the name of religion as she addressed the Bengal Women's Education Conference. Okay? अब आप इसके words देखो. The opponents of female education say that women will become unruly. They call themselves Muslims and yet go against the basic tenet of Islam, which gives women an equal right to education. If men are not led astray once educated, why should women? क्योंकि एजुकेशन का इम्पैक्ट अगर मेन पे गलत नहीं होगा तो वुमेन पे क्यों होगा, है ना? इट हैज सिमिलर इम्पैक्ट. यहाँ पर जेंडर की कोई बात ही नहीं होती है. ओके, तो यू कैन सी हियर देयर वर सो मेनी फीमेल्स both from Hindu religion as well as Muslim religion who talked in favor of education for women. Then we come to next section. This is again a small painting you can see here. An Indian couple, black and white woodcut में है. यहाँ पर आप देखो ये क्या show कर रहा है. You can see the lady, she is you can see using hookah. I hope you know about it. And the man is playing veena. तो दिस इज शोइंग, ये एक तरह का मॉकरी है शो करने के लिए कि अगर वुमेन एजुकेटेड हो गई तो दे आर गोइंग टू बिहेव लाइक दिस. तो दिस काइंड ऑफ मेंटालिटी वाज देयर इन इंडिया, वी कैन से ड्यूरिंग द मिड ऑफ 19th century, and people were against female education. Then this is again a caricature you can see here, a European couple sitting on chairs. Okay, this picture suggests traditional family roles. Okay, the Sahib holds a liquor bottle in his hand while the Mem Sahib plays the violin. So this is an ideal role. Even in Europe also this gender discrimination was going on. You can see through this pic. And then we come to next section, that is print and the poor people. Okay, what was the role of poor people when this print technology was developing in India? So let us come to that. You can see here Jyotiba Phule. He was from Maharashtra. Very famous person. He belonged to low caste, and he was a victim of caste discrimination in India. So he wrote a novel. It is known as Gulam Giri, 1871, and it was based upon caste discrimination in India. Then we had others also like B.R. Ambedkar. I hope you know B.R. Ambedkar was from North India, and he was also victim of caste discrimination in India. He also belonged from untouchables, from low caste category, and he had also written a lot of articles related to caste discrimination. We have E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, who wrote about caste discrimination. Then from Kanpur, there is an example. There was a mill worker known as Kashi Baba who wrote Chote aur Bade Ka Sawal, And we have examples of others like Sudarshan Chakri, who published his poems, known as Sachi Kavitaएं. Although this is his pen name, nobody knows what was his real name, and he died at a young age, And then we come to print and censorship. Okay, this is also one of the important and we can say the last topic of this chapter. अगर हम बात करें इंडिया में, तो जब इंडिया ब्रिटिश कॉलोनी बनी, दैट वाज आफ्टर बैटल ऑफ पलासी एंड बक्सर. तो बाय द एंड ऑफ 18th century 1798 तक कोई भी सेंसरशिप वी कैन से लॉ नहीं था. कोई भी कुछ भी पब्लिश कर सकता था. पर इन बिटवीन क्या हुआ कि जो इंडियंस हैं उनके सेंटिमेंट्स ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ बढ़ते गए, एंड दे स्टार्टेड प्रिंटिंग सम मटेरियल. सो इट केम इनटू द नोटिस ऑफ ब्रिटिशर्स, एंड व्हाट दे डिड 1820, द कैलकाटा सुप्रीम कोर्ट इट पास एन ऑर्डर टू कंट्रोल द प्रेस. तो फिर इसके लिए लॉ बन गए टू कंट्रोल द प्रेस. अब कुछ इंडियंस थे जिन्होंने इसको अपोज भी किया. ठीक है, 1835 वी हैड अ वेरी लिबरल गवर्नर जनरल. He was a obviously British Governor General from very humble background in Britain, William Bentinck. Okay, so the Indians, they were demanding to revise the press law. So William Bentinck, he agreed to revise the press law and make it more liberal for Indians. So he gave this task to Thomas Macaulay. तो Thomas Macaulay ने क्या किया, जो नए प्रेस लॉज थे उनको रिवाइज किया. सो इंडियंस वर somehow happy. But afterwards what happened? 1857 रिवोल्ट स्टार्ट हो गया. आप सबने पढ़ा हुआ है इन क्लास 8th अबाउट 1857 रिवोल्ट. एंड ऑल्दो द रिवोल्ट वाज क्रश्ड, बट इंडियंस के सेंटिमेंट्स चूंकि सप्रेस हुए थे तो धीरे धीरे फिर वो सर उठा रहे थे. तो फाइनली क्या हुआ, बाय 1878 देयर वाज वर्नाकुलर प्रेस एक्ट व्हिच वाज इम्पोज्ड इन इंडिया, एंड दिस एक्ट वाज बेस्ड ऑन आयरिश प्रेस लॉ, ठीक है। आप इसको जब द राइज ऑफ नेशनलिज्म इन यूरोप पढ़ोगे तो उससे रिलेट कर सकते हो कि व्हेन आयरलैंड वाज कॉलोनाइज्ड बाय ब्रिटेन, we can say annexed by Britain, so they tried to control their press through the Irish press law. तो इंडिया में जब ये वर्नाकुलर प्रेस एक्ट आया, it was based upon the Irish press law. Okay, so you can see here, this is again information given in the box. Okay, you know, even the British government, they wanted to control the press, but sometimes it was quite difficult for them to find appropriate people who were loyal, we can say editors. Okay, जैसे एक ब्रिटिश एडिटर की ही बात हो रही है यहाँ पे, सैंडर्स, यू नो, ही वाज एडिटर ऑफ स्टेट्समैन, ठीक है, he was approached by the British government in India, okay, but later on what he said, he rudely asked that how much he would be paid for suffering the loss of freedom, because he was in favor of freedom of press. तो उसे लगा कि अगर ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के अंडर मुझे काम करना पड़ेगा तो ऑब्वियसली आई नॉट बी फ्री टू वर्क. सो इस तरह के भी एग्जांपल्स हैं वेर इन पीपल फ्रॉम Britain also had questioned this, some of the intellectuals. Okay, then we come to again the source, you know, here. So this is about we can say seditious acts, you know, First World War के समय कुछ under the defense, we can say, of India rules, 22 newspapers, you know, they had to furnish securities. इनमें से बहुतों को बंद कर दिया गया, जैसे रॉलेट एक्ट के समय भी आप देखोगे कुछ न्यूज़पेपर्स बंद कर दिए गए, ठीक है ना. इवन सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के समय भी कुछ न्यूज़पेपर्स को बंद कर दिया गया. द ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट दे ट्राई टू सप्रेस द, वी कैन से, राइट ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, दे ट्राई टू सेंसर द प्रिंटिंग मटेरियल इन इंडिया. ओके, एंड this is a statement given by Gandhi in 1922, you know, that is about liberty of speech. Okay, liberty of the press, then freedom of association. The government of India is now seeking to crush the three powerful vehicles of expressing and cultivating public opinion. तो एक्चुअली ब्रिटिशर्स जो है लिबर्टी ऑफ स्पीच, लिबर्टी ऑफ प्रेस, लिबर्टी ऑफ एसोसिएशन, लाइक पॉलिटिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस जो इंडियन बना रहे थे उसको कर्टेल कर रहे थे. तो गांधी हैड रेज्ड क्वेश्चन अगेंस्ट दिस इन 1922, लॉन्ग बैक. ओके, and this is all about this chapter. Okay, so on the whole, students, in this chapter we had discussed about how print culture evolved. ये कहाँ से originate हुआ, we went to China, हमने discussion किया, फिर जापान कैसे पहुंचा, फिर इटली में आया, ठीक है, बाय मार्को पोलो, वहाँ पे उसमें इम्प्रोवाइजेशंस हुए, ठीक है, पहला मैकेनिकल प्रिंटिंग प्रेस बना, फिर इटली से पूरी यूरोप में स्प्रेड हुआ, फिर मेटल के प्रिंटिंग प्रेस आए, इनका अलग अलग इस्तेमाल हुआ. एंड दिस टेक्नोलॉजी हैड लॉट ऑफ इम्पैक्ट ऑन सोसाइटी ऑफ यूरोप. देन वी टॉक्ड अबाउट इंडिया के, इंडिया में ये प्रिंट टेक्नोलॉजी कैसे आई, किसने इंट्रोड्यूस किया, एंड फाइनली how we can say how it evolved in India, and it also affect the society of India. So this is all for today's lecture. Thank you very much. All the best.